people, I'm Allie.
And I'm Lizzie, and we're the Photo Sisters.
Today we are going to talk to you about what those numbers on a lens actually mean.
Yay!
Which is really good info to know.
It is very good to know. So when you're shopping online for camera equipment like Amazon, B&H Photo, wherever, you might notice that you see Canon 16-35 mm f/2.8 or something like that. And you wonder, I don't know what this means. I don't know how this differs from that lens. Like, there's so many numbers going on, so hopefully we're going to simplify that for you today. On this particular camera, I have a 16-35 millimeter f2.8 L series lens. The L is
That's not a mouthful.
Yeah, sorry. The L, if you ever see an L, like literally the number L, or like literally the letter L, that's
the number L.
That's Canon's line of professional lenses, and you can kind of also tell because they have this red ring around the lens. But those are usually the really, really high-end expensive lenses, but that's what the L means. That's what the L stands for. No, that's not even a Canon lens.
I know, but I'm just saying, it's not the shibbity schmooker.
So essentially, what the numbers that come before the mm, which stands for millimeters, shows you the focal distance and the focal range that that particular lens has. So in this example, the 16-35 millimeter lens, it stands for that this lens can range from 16 millimeters all the way to 35 millimeters, and that means that it can zoom in and out. Now, the lower that the number is, in this case 16, that's as wide as it can go. So the lower number that you have means that it's wide. You can see a lot in the view frame. This is good if you're shooting like a big group of people, or if you're in a room that you don't really have much space to be able to back up. Right now, if I take a picture right here, I think what I'll do is I'll actually take a few different stills and kind of show you some examples on our blog. But right now I have it zoomed out all the way to 16 millimeters, and I'm going to just take a picture real quick. And I have a ton. Oh. You can see I have a lot showing. Now, if I were to zoom in to 35 millimeters, which 35 millimeters is still considered wide. It's not as wide as 16 millimeters, but at 35 millimeters, it's going to be a lot less in the frame. So I'm going to just show you real quick. That's 35 millimeters, and that's 16. So you can see this is wide, it's a low number, and this is a little bit closer up, it's 35, but there's a big difference in those photos. So if you're seeing two numbers, a 16-35 or maybe 18-55, that just shows you what the number it can zoom in and out to. It can cover everything in between, but essentially, if it's two numbers, it is a zoom lens.
Okay, so let's talk about a different kind of lens. This is a prime lens, and a prime lens means it's just one number before the millimeter. So a popular one of that is the 50 millimeter, which means I can't zoom this
It's
at all.
a fixed
it doesn't
focal
go anywhere.
length. Fixed
Only
focal length.
50 millimeters. So if you want to go in and out in your image, it means you actually got to walk your little self back and forth to get those further away or closer away shots.
A prime lens, like she was saying, won't zoom. So what are the benefits of having a prime lens versus a zoom lens? First and foremost, a prime lens can have usually a wider aperture or a bigger maximum aperture. In this case, it's an f1.4 lens, which we talked about in our aperture video, means you can have better background blur as well as the ability to shoot in lower light situations without a flash because the aperture can open larger. A zoom lens, on the flip side, can't have as maximum of an aperture as prime lenses because they're already zooming, they're already having that feature. So if you're getting a good zoom lens, which is usually like 16-35 f2.8, anything that's like f2.8 means it's going to be expensive. This lens is about $1,300 or $1,400-ish, and this lens is probably about $300 to $400. So there's a really big price difference. when you're getting a zoom lens, of course, you're getting the practicality of a zoom lens because it's more practical in situations where you don't have to move all the time. You can just move your lens, you don't have to move yourself, so it's a lot easier if you don't have the option to be able to move into your subject. But like we said, you're paying the price. You're paying a lot higher of a price to have that ability. So that's why prime lenses or fixed focal lengths are so popular with photographers, because they're a lot more affordable, but also the image quality is usually much, much better than you can get with any zoom lens out there. So you're losing the practicality of it, but you're gaining so much more in the ability to take better pictures. Oh.
Gotcha.
Okay, so after you see the 16 to 35 millimeters, you're also going to see an f' number. And like we've talked about in our aperture video, the f' means the aperture. So if you see like 16 to 35 f2.8, it's telling you that the lens ranges from 16 to 35 millimeters and the maximum aperture that it can get is 2.8. That's as wide as the aperture will go.
And for more detail on that, we will link to it below our video on what that actually means.
Yes. And if you see that it says like f3.5-5.6, that means that the aperture depends on the focal length that it's at. And you usually don't see those dashes unless you're paying for a cheaper kit sort of lens. And that means that your maximum aperture actually depends on the number that you're zoomed into. So you are going to lose a lot of quality. So please stay away from those types of lenses if you're serious about taking better pictures. Either, get a prime lens and deal with it being a fixed focal length, or if you got the kind of dough, just spend the money on a better zoom lens if that's, so important to you to be able to zoom. On our blog, I'll also talk a little bit more in detail about what the different numbers are good for as far as your focal length. So check it out, thefotosisters.com, and we'll link to that below as well. So thank you for watching.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.